Hello, entrepreneur clinicians, and welcome to This is Private Practice. I am not the one and only fabulous Jo Muirhead, as obvious by my brown hair and maybe my very American accent. I am Cindy Doyle. I am a group private practice owner in Texas and the founder of Code for Couples, which supports law enforcement couples in all kinds of different ways. One of the topics that Jo threw out for us to talk about was what makes a successful private practice. And I thought that is the topic for me to talk about because I know exactly what makes a successful private practice. So go get your pen and paper ready because I'm going to tell you what makes a successful private practice. Are you ready? Here it is. You're the one who gets to determine what makes a successful private practice. Nobody else does. And like right now in this whole time of COVID, how do we determine what success looks like? I mean, there's different ways, right? It could be that you get through the day. It could be that you got one new client. It could be that your clinicians are still making money. It could be that you got the PPP loan and you're doing well. You in Australia don't have that. We do here in America. So it really depends upon you and what you think a successful private practice looks like. When I left my nonprofit job 12 years ago now, I thought, well, I was measured. I was measured by how many clients I was serving, the type of outcomes I was getting, how long were they in the program, did I spend money appropriately, and did I spend it in the appropriate quarter? There were so many different metrics and measures that I had to go by that I knew, like, okay, this is what makes me successful. And sometimes when we're in the therapy room, you're like, do I make a difference? Are other people making a difference? And when we have that imposter syndrome stuff going on, that's when we really are susceptible to, like, am I successful? Am I not? You know, that's a real struggle for us. So when I started private practice, I thought, okay, I have to replace my income. That's what makes me successful, is the amount of money that I make. And so I got all the clients and I took anybody who would pay me, and I wasn't really thinking strategically because I just wanted to replace my income. So then after that, I thought, okay, well, I need more credentials after my name. And so I went chasing credentials and chasing clinical training because I thought that would make me more successful. And then I started seeing, oh, there's a business side to this. And so I started looking at business and I thought, oh, they're successful and they read that book. So I better read that book or sign up for their training or go to this thing because that was going to make me successful. And in essence, it's really about what I wanted. Because the fact is that I was comparing myself to all these other different people. They weren't me. They didn't have my story. And I was trying to figure out what makes me successful. And when we're alone in our clinical room, you know, you can't go up to people and go, so, hey, had this person in trauma and wow, she's nailing it now. Let me tell you exactly what her story was. You can't do that, right? That's why Jo has the book of evidence. Just going to throw Jo all the kinds of things. Jo and her book of evidence, like, you write it down. I would tell my new clinicians, you know, have a file folder, but I love her idea of the book of evidence where you write things down all the time. So I had comparisonitis, another book that Jo's currently written that you can read. I had comparisonitis because I was comparing myself to everybody else. And in essence, I was really comparing my worst self to their best self because I was comparing what they were putting out on social media. And a lot of people don't put out on social media like, hey, I struggle in the room and I'm struggling with this. I think we see that more, but not initially. And like websites, I'd be like, oh, look at their fancy website. They must be really successful. So as we know, thank you, Teddy Roosevelt, comparison is the thief of all joy. And so when we're looking at what makes a successful private practice, like, nobody can actually determine that but you. There are lots of practices that charge way more than I do, have way swankier digs, have fancier websites way more clinicians, way more clients, but they're not my practice. And so they aren't you either. So you're uniquely qualified to create a successful private practice because it's about you. One of the most vulnerable things that I had to do was to quit comparing myself and to find something that worked for me. Because what that did is that sometimes people will be like, oh, you do that? Yes, that's what I do. And when people do that, you feel a little slimed, you feel a little shamed. And that's hard to move through. But when you decide what you want for your private practice success, then you feel okay about it. You can start to feel okay. It still feels vulnerable. Sometimes people see the things I do and they go, wow, you must be chasing something, or wow, you're really unhealthy. And I'm like, ugh. And I call my friends and I go, do you know what they just said? And it helps, right? Because you have other people that are with you. And that's what this whole community is about supporting each other, not shaming or comparing each other. So what makes you uniquely successful? Is it the clients you serve? Is it the outcomes that you have with them? Is it the treatment that you provide for them? Is it the income you make? Is it the reputation that you have in the community? Is it your personal income? Is it your practice income? Is it the fact that you have clinicians that are able to have income and a life? Is it balance? You know, do you get to go home? Is it important to you that you go home at 3:30 and make sure that you see your high schooler come home? I don't know. It's up to you. I have a clinician that does that, and we support that. Is it your health? Is there something that you need to be aware of in regard to your health? And it's really important for you to have income and take care of your health. And that's what makes you a successful private practice. Is it the fact that you get to travel or give time back to your community? Is it the culture that you create in your office? Like, you get to decide. I co-own my practice. And besides the clients that we serve, besides that the community trusts us and they'll call upon us, one of the things that make us feel successful as a practice is that we, most of the time, have new clinicians and we grow clinicians. And I love it. I love seeing them create a life and create their own success because they have this balance of whatever it is that they want to create. And so you are the one that gets to uniquely decide what that looks like. You know, right now with COVID, my whole definition of successful private practice has shifted. One of those things that I feel makes us successful as a private practice is that my business partner and I collaborate with our clinicians and we say, hey, what do you need to feel physically and mentally safe right now? Do we go running in and open our practice doors? Do we do it slowly? Do we not do it for a while? What do y'all need? And that makes us feel successful. It really is shifting. Honestly, one of the things that made me feel successful one day is that I called one of my friends who's also a clinician and said, I need to just cry for a minute. And that was success for me because I needed to own the fact that I had feels about all this stuff. So remember, cut out the comparisonitis. You are the one who gets to uniquely determine what makes you a successful private practice. You need to figure out what are those elements and then take time to claim it. And by claim it, I mean say, yes, this is what I do. And sometimes getting out there and doing that feels really kind of scary, but you can do it because it makes you uniquely you. Also, celebrate those things that make uniquely you. Find something every day to go, hey, this is what made me successful today. And because of that, my practice was a success today. You can do that because there's no one that's uniquely you. And so when you're thinking about what makes a successful private practice, remember that nobody's practice is going to look like yours, that you are going to make your own practice and find your own success along the way. So until next week, go be your awesome self.